BYJU'S 9th and 10th grade channel. I'm your teacher Aishwarya, and of course in this particular video we are going to be understanding how can we make effective notes for the chapter The Fundamental Unit of Life. Now, of course, on an examination point of view, if you look at your science syllabus, out of all the chapters that you have in science, for biology specifically, you have only 3 chapters. One is fundamental unit of life, then you have tissues, and then of course in the end you have improvement in food resources. Now you must be thinking, "Arey ma'am, easy peasy chapters, we have nothing to worry about." But understand that in order to build your competencies in all of this, you also need to make effective notes. And most often than not, we tend to struggle with making notes. Right? We always keep thinking, right, ma'am, how to make notes. We know that, for this particular chapter, we know that there's a general way of making notes. But of course, the techniques vary from subject to subject. The way you make notes for physics versus the way you make notes for chemistry versus the way you make notes for biology, to maths, to social science will all differ, right? Which is why today in this very short class, I will not take too long, maybe maximum about 20 minutes, we're going to understand how all of us can make notes better for this particular chapter, right? So students, this is going to be a very simple and easy class. We have of course covered the conceptual clarities in great detail. We've also made sure that we've practiced with questions, and in the upcoming weeks we're also going to be helping you with all of your unit tests. So this right here is going to come very helpful for all of you, which is why students, very quickly, as you all know, this particular video is being live streamed. So for all my live audience, I hope that my audio, my video and my screen and whatever I'm writing on the screen is visible to all of you. If it is, students, please give me a quick thumbs up to let me know that we are good to go. And students, as we all know, for many students who might watch this video much later after the live stream, please make sure that you go to the parts where I'm quickly talking about the important pointers that we have to keep in mind, right? So thank you so much, everybody. Now, of course, to my live audience, let me tell you one thing. I may limit my interaction a little bit in the beginning because I want to make this session very short, right? Talking on and on about how notes are made and all of that. I want to get to that pretty quickly, right? Which is why I might limit my interaction with you, but that does not mean that I am ignoring you in class. But that does not mean that I am going to not care about you, right? So please don't have any negative connotations, right? I just need you to pay attention because here I am not teaching you, yes? I need you to understand a few basic things, yes? So now, of course, let's understand what is it that we're going to be covering in this particular video, right? So first and foremost, we're going to understand that now that our classes are done and we know what is there in the chapter, many of us get worried, right? Ma'am, when do I start making my notes? How many of you have this confusion that, ma'am, I don't know when I should start making my notes? Should I start before the chapter starts? Should I do it immediately after it's done in school? Or should I do it maybe, during the chapter as it goes? Or is it towards the end, right? Many of us have this confusion and we keep getting a little worried about it. And no, it is not recorded. For students who are telling it's recorded, I can read your comments, okay? It's not recorded. Next, then we will see, after we tackle this confusion, right? Then we will go and understand, ma'am, how to make the notes, okay? What is it that I should do after making my notes? Now let's see how to make these handwritten notes. And today I have made handwritten notes for all of you, which is why everybody, sometimes it will be, I've done it the way I do it. And let's embrace how we make our own notes, right? Then of course we will go, where do we go wrong in making notes? We go on and on watching videos about how to make notes. That's probably because we don't know how exactly we need to make notes, or there might be a few things that we are overthinking, right? Which is why we are going to look at these 3 very simple things today. Yes? So let's get started with the first thing, right? What steps should we follow? Now in note making, there are actually 3 stages of note making, okay? Now the 3 stages are, 1, which actually happens before your class, okay? Now I am going to consider your classroom class. Let's forget the fact that you also come to, BYJU'S YouTube channel as well. But I'm going to consider your classroom class, yes? Now when you have classroom class, right, there are 3 aspects, right? One is before the class starts, one is during the class, and one is after the class, okay? Now, before the class, let's assume that, okay, let's assume that your teacher tells you tomorrow I am going to be starting tissues chapter. So everybody, please, letting you know that fundamental unit of life is done. I am going to start tissues chapter. first thing that you actually need to do is you need to prepare for the class by reading it. Okay, now I know that many of you might tell me, ma'am, homework is there, that is there, this is there, so this is going to be a little difficult, right? So in case if it doesn't happen also, I would suggest it's okay, don't beat yourself about it thinking that, oh ma'am, I didn't do this, I'm a very bad student, but try to go prepared for class, right? So try to go by reading for the class. Now in case in your classroom you are not able to do it, at least when you come for BYJU'S classes or when you're attending our classes, do this particular step, because this becomes very helpful for all of you, right? Now of course you have it during the class, right? Now when you're going to the class or when you are attending my class, right? Let's assume you have come to my class. Now when I teach you, a lot of you will tell, ma'am, can you please stop? Can you please do this? Can I please do that? Right? So here you need to note down the main ideas and keywords when I am taking the class, okay? Which means that if your notes are not looking very pretty when I am taking the class, it's completely okay. For example, let's assume that you are attending a class which is directed on nucleus session. Now maybe during the class, because things were happening so fast, all you wrote down is nuclear membrane, right? And then you wrote down, then based on nuclear membrane you have eukaryotic, you have prokaryotic, right? So you wrote all of these things down, you wrote main keywords, but they're not in detail, right? They're not in detail as much as you would like it to be when you are studying. It's okay. So which means ideally try to have a rough notebook, right? Have a rough notebook where you can make these rough notes, right? And maybe have a proper copy, right? This proper copy that you will maintain could be the one where you make all your proper notes, right? 10th graders can also follow this particular methodology. Slight tweaks could be there, but this of course I'm directing it with respect to fundamental unit of life, right? So rough notebook is where you can write all your rough notes, and I'm telling you notebook because it will be in one place. Otherwise what will happen, we will take random sheets of paper and then we will write it here and there, one sheet will go missing, and then everything is, you know, one loop, right? Arey ma'am, one sheet went away, now what to do? Okay, I will start from again. Lot of wastage of time happens when you have all these loose sheets. Don't do that. Keep proper notebooks, okay? Everybody have notebooks, not loose sheets. Yes? So that is one very important thing. And last but not the least, right, after you make these running notes is when your after process starts. So then I will come to all of you, right? Now I'm going to ask you, when do you think you should make notes? What do you think after all of this? Do you think it is very ideal for us to make notes when the chapter is still going on? See, you can make notes. I am not telling no. But if you were to ask me, right, ma'am, when is it advisable? What do you think as a teacher, or what did you do, right, ma'am? What did you do when you were a student that helped you best? So I kept having running notes, okay? I kept having running notes. But once my teacher has finished, right? Once my teacher has finished the full chapter, I will make my proper notes, right? So I will make all my proper notes together, right? So that is when, once the chapter is done. This is my recommendation as a teacher, right? Many people will tell you many different things, but I will always tell you, students, you go to YouTube, you find notebooks or how to make notes, you will find so many videos, right? And see, to be honest, the process for students is pretty much the same. But you need to understand that maybe one thing what this person tells and one thing from that person, if you mix up methodologies, no, you will get confused. You do what works best for you. And if you ask me as a teacher, right, if you take my advice as your teacher, I will tell you that once you finish the chapter, you make your proper notes. And when you do this, no, it should not be some, you know, hodgepodge work that you do. Spend time, because this is the notes that you will study and the ones that you will go and learn from, right? So this should be like a proper set of notes that you make. So now that we know when we need to make our notes, right? How can we get started? So what is the process by which we need to get started? Yes? So let's have a look. 4 steps are there. Easy peasy steps, right? Abhimanyu, I'm going to take your doubt on that. That's a very good thing, but I'll finish this part and then I will tell you what to do about that case, right? 4 steps. How can we get started? Yes? Step number 1, read NCERT, right? Now, let me go back and maybe realign this process, okay? Many of you think, ma'am, do I make notes from NCERT? Do I make notes from YouTube classes? Do I make notes that is going to be provided by my teacher in class? How many of you are confused in this particular case? Please tell me in the live chat right now. If you have already made notes, that's well and good, right? Yes, I will take these questions. Sometimes we get confused, right? We don't know whether we need to follow NCERT, well, we don't know whether YouTube classes or what my teacher gives me. But you understand one thing, primarily, okay, whether it is us or whether it is your teacher, you understand that when we are teaching you, we will be teaching you from NCERT. So your source number one is to read through NCERT. Okay, so when you are making your notes, you understand that side mein what you have with you is all of your rough notes that you have made through YouTube classes also. You have it ready with you, right? But NCERT is the first thing that you have to do. Trust me, as a teacher, I'm telling you, NCERT is the best. Yes, Bhumi, right? So first, what will you do? You will read NCERT, right? Now, when you have to read NCERT, see, this is your chapter, this is your first 2 pages of NCERT. Now, when you read, of course, I have already told you how you need to read. Now, first thing, when you're doing NCERT reading, you need to skim through the chapter. I'm not going to go into the details because I've made a separate video on the same, right? Now, you can skim through the notes, like first, okay, yeah, all this is given. And then you can go for in-depth reading, right? And when you do in-depth reading, what is it that we have to do, right? When we are reading word by word, right? And we are reading it out loud. What should we do, students, in the live chat? You can tell me, right? What would you do? Exactly, Manjeet. Very good. Yes, you have to underline and highlight the important points, right? So when you are reading it, highlight the important points and highlight the important keywords. But does this mean that if I am going to highlight my important pointers, let me use a highlighter. Oh ma'am, this point is important, this point is important, this point is important. Looks like all of it is important, and then in the end, NCERT will look like one bright, colorful textbook, okay? If you are going to sit and highlight the whole paragraph thinking everything is important, then that's not going to be helpful, right? You cannot make one colorful yellow color. It's almost like you are coloring in NCERT. Coloring is not what you have to do, right? Then how do you understand what are the important points? Yes? So see, go through keywords, right? You can use pencil. Pencil is what is recommended, but for your visibility, right? For you all to understand a little bit better, I have used a highlighter so that you can see best, right? But again, this is for all of you to use. Students, as you in class 10th and 9th, I would recommend you use a pencil only. This is just for, my sake, that it makes things easier and a little more beautiful to look at. So now if you look at it, you don't need to highlight everything. Look at how I have just highlighted the key pointers for me so that I know it's seen. Understand that it's not like you are rewriting NCERT. You are making notes, which means that you need to make sure all the important pointers, right? You highlight them one by one. So in this case, when you look at it, you can even mention with pencil, right? You can mention things like this is the function, right? We see that this is the definition of diffusion. You can write down that this is definition of osmosis, right? And then you can talk about here how, this is about hypotonic. You can make these, I would call these as guiding points, right? So I would tell you that these are all your guiding points which are there that will help you identify. So this way I would tell you, right? This is the way in which you can start it first, okay? Underline and write. Okay, this is what it is, this is what it is. So what will happen, once you do this entire exercise, you would have understood how exactly you need to do. Now, after this, you have a little bit of planning to do as to how you will make your notes, right? Because you need to have your rough notebook also handy. YouTube class pe you have paid attention to Aishwarya Ma'am and Ankita Ma'am's classes and you've made a lot of extra pointers. And along with that, you need to have all of your stationery ready also, right? So these two things you need to keep it ready so that you can always start making notes, right? First is NCERT. Then we move on to our rest of the things. So far, are we all clear? Are we feeling like, ma'am, this is possible, this is doable, right? Are we all feeling? Yes? Okay. Mahi has a very good question. Okay, ma'am, I have understood whatever you have told me so far. But How is it that we have to make notes? Do I have to write as per what NCERT tells me, or should I make sure that I want to write it as per my own language, right? See, I will always tell you, when you are making notes, write it in your own language. Do not, because when you write it in your own language, right, let me tell you, it makes things more easier. Yes, and Priya, make a separate notebook. Make a separate clean notebook where you have all of this. And that's my recommendation to you, right? See, these are all things that I am telling you, tips and tricks as what I believe as a teacher, what I practiced as a student, right? And of course, this also helped me get very good 90 plus grades in my 10th board and my 12th boards. So this is nothing that I have, just, researched and come. These are things that I do, right? So that's why I would recommend, these are things that I recommend that worked for me, and you can try it out as students. Yes? So let's understand how we make our notes. Now understand that these are handwritten notes that I have made for this particular chapter. Now it's one thing that I show you the whole set of notes, right? But if I show you the whole set of notes, how will you make your own? So I am going to get you kick started. I will show you how you can start writing, and then you write on your own. And even in note making method, right? If you look at note making methods, there are various methods. They'll say linear method, outline method, Cornell method. If you start searching note making method, you will go into one black hole. So much is there to learn and understand. But for you students, write everything that you might forget. Let me tell you, it is very easy. I write down, if you notice, right? There are many of you who understand by visually remembering it, many of you who write and practice, many of you who remember even maybe the silliest of things. You might think, "Arey ma'am, many students are able to remember who discovered cell." But for some reason, I am not able to discover cell. I mean, I can't remember who discovered cell. You write that down in your notes, right? Write it down in your notebook, so that when you are revising and studying, what is the purpose of making these notes? So that you revise later, right? Which is why I would suggest that you write down everything. There are some points which you will remember, but if, apart from important points, ye chotu motu points which you might forget also, you can write it down. Yes? Now, second one, should we do colorful notes or time waste? You don't need colorful notes. You don't. Have a black pen, have a blue pen, enough. Have one pencil to underline. I made this so that you look, things are able to stand out a little more for you, but you don't need all those things, right? Yes. Okay, so now as you can see, we have started with the definition of cell, right? And I've underlined the important pointers. Whatever I have highlighted, just think of it as underlining with textbook. Ansh bacha towards the end, okay? Then we get on with important scientists and their discoveries. We've looked at Robert Hooke, what he has done. We've spent some points on Robert Hooke because we know that in our exam, we will get these questions. Then we move on to Anton van Leeuwenhoek, all the other scientists, what they did, right? And of course, we see that there is cell theory also, and what are the postulates of cell theory. Yes? Now, use flowcharts also wherever needed, and you can use these small doodle diagrams also because it helps you remember better, right? So you have, then we learned about organisms, how we have two types of organisms. In multicellular organisms, we see division of labor, right? And how there are different cells of different shape and size. Now we know that this particular point is important because it may ask for assertion reason. Now these are small things that we normally tell you in class. So here, in such cases, you can even add post-its, right? You can use post-its, or you can draw one small bubble here, right? You can put one small bubble here and you can put important. They can ask me for assertion reason. So you can use all of these things as well, which makes it very handy, right? So you make use of these post-its and everything very proper, like, very mindfully and properly, right? So now, of course, as we all know in this case, we go on to structure and what the cell is made up of. You can add the diagram because diagram of cell will come in the examination. So animal cell, plant cell, you can draw and keep so that it's good for revision. Yes. And then you get started. Now, here I'll take 1 minute of your time. Now, when you look at plasma membrane and if you read your textbook, right? So I will go back to the page where plasma membrane is mentioned. Your plasma membrane points or information about plasma membrane, they start from functions of plasma membrane. They talk about all the processes and everything, and then they go on to osmosis. The structure is not quite proper, right? Then only in the end they tell you that plasma membrane structure is actually lipid and protein, and that's why it is flexible. Yes, which is why in this case, right, although NCERT gives you this kind of a flow, when you come to our classes, we never teach you in this manner. We teach you in a way which is easy for you to understand. So what do we start with? We start with structure, then we do function, so that you are able to visualize its structure and function. Drawing is optional for all of you. You don't need to necessarily draw and keep. This is something which is easy for understanding, because in bio, if you make small doodle diagrams, they don't need to look pretty or anything, but if you draw small doodle diagrams, no, they tend to register in your mind much faster than writing text, right? So this makes it easy, right, for all of us to understand. Visually it kind of sits in your head. Yes, and then of course we also know, right, we know that there are functions of plasma membrane. Now of course here, right, as we all see functions of plasma membrane, you have to list it down, right? And of course here we've also spoken about how there are two kinds of transport. Now this, of course, students focus. Now here many of you are telling me, ma'am, in some cases it's not given in NCERT but you have taught me, or it's given in NCERT, it's not given in NCERT but my teacher went in detail, right? I would suggest that whatever is in detail and what is necessary, I would suggest that all of you write it down, whatever is important. Now this particular part, as you can all see, no, most important movement of active passive transport, NCERT has not specified in great detail. Yes, but this is something you can write down so that it makes it easy, because you know that in diffusion osmosis, no utilization, while in transport of ions we see utilization. And again, when you are elaborating diffusion, osmosis, right, I would recommend that you draw these diagrams, not diagrams, but rather small doodles to visually understand. So whether it is for diffusion or whether it's for osmosis, you can draw these diagrams so that tomorrow I will tell you, I will write and give it to you. This diagram will sit in your mind more than the definition that I have written on top. Right? So that is why do these small doodlings. It really helps you. See, I doodle in class. So if you actually listen to me in class and you see what I draw or how I draw and I represent, no, that is something that you can do it. Yes? Ma'am, should we make notes after in-depth reading or during reading? After in-depth reading, make your notes. Yes? So I'm going to take a few doubts at this moment. Now some very simple doubts, ma'am. Can we use highlighter in notebook? Not recommended, because unnecessary waste of time. Pencil, pen is more than enough, right? Ma'am, people say we should use symbols instead of words. So how should I get symbol? See, symbols, what they normally tell is like, you know, for especially you can write ESP. For example, you can write EG. Things like that. That's up to you, right? I would say it is not highly recommended. Yes? So now you understand the sequence of how to make notes, right? Now I understand that for some of you, your teachers are teaching you from Lakshmi Singh. But understand that in your board examination, right now I know you're in 9th grade, but NCERT first, then Lakshmi Singh. Yes? Ma'am, how to make notes from activities in NCERT? So there are two ways of looking at it. You could have a separate box, right? Now for example, let me give you an example. Imagine there is an activity regarding osmosis, right? So what you could do, you could actually have a small bubble here, right? So you could make a small bubble, and for activities you can do like a flow chart. So you can make a flow chart, and in this case you can write down brief steps. For example, the onion peel one that is there, right? So take onion peel, put it on slide, add, I mean, I'm not able to remember the exact process, but I'm assuming this is it. Add, you know, dye to it, or, you know, dyeing solution, and observe under microscope, right? You write the process like this. Make a simple flow chart to write the process. But in the case of your activities, what is most important is the observation. So you can make a separate box for observation. You can highlight it and write down what you observe, right? Yes. Ma'am, is record book useful for writing notes? It is, but I won't recommend. Use a ruled book. Simple. Color pens, not important. These are secondary things. Yes? Ma'am, I made notes for this chapter, but I made mistakes. Should I rewrite? No, don't rewrite it. Wherever you've made mistakes, add sticky notes, or at that part, you can just, you know, maybe I would recommend sticky notes, so you can add a sheet of paper and you can write it there. Yes? Okay. Activities, Yes, competency mein activities can be important, right? Should we make it by seeing or without seeing? I would recommend you see and you make, right? But when you're seeing and making, try to make sure that you write it in your own words and you're not blindly copy pasting NCRT because you don't want a second textbook. So when you're seeing and making, also try to make sure that you are properly writing it in your own words. So that tomorrow when you are revising, right? Why are we making these notes? What is the purpose of these notes? To revise, to study from it, right? So when you are revising the chapter, you are able to do it. And in the end of these books, right, or once you are done, so these are few things that you have to keep in mind. So once a chapter is done, no? So once a chapter is done, in the end, you can even make a mind map, right? You can make a mind map towards the end, or you can even make it in the beginning. That is your choice. But with the help of a mind map, this can really help you study. A4 size sheets. See, I'll always tell you, loose paper, we tend to lose it, which is why books are better. Yes? Ma'am, if I make notes, can I top? You will definitely top, right? Do you want it for all other chapters? I will do it. Diagrams are necessary for biology, right? And for grade 9 biology, I will recommend that there are some important diagrams, right? So for fundamental unit of life, and when you are making your notes for tissues, please include diagrams so that it makes things easy. Not because I want you to make it look very fancy, right? Yes. Okay. All right. See, now let me tell you one thing. Understand that your handwriting in your notes, right? So few things that I want you to keep in mind. Handwriting does not matter. Beauty in notes does not matter as long as you can understand, right? And last but not the least, what I would recommend is that please make sure you write it in your own language. Now see, this is one methodology that I am suggesting, but there could be some other methodology that might work for you. But you do what is needed for you, right? Do what is necessary for you, because all these notes, they are not to show Aishwarya Ma'am or anybody else. These notes are for you. So keep that in mind and please make sure that you go ahead, right? Microscope diagram, they'll not ask you to draw, but they may ask you maybe questions based on that. More than that, yes? Okay, how many pages should be there? I would suggest take a 200 page, I would say between 100 to 200 pages, because see, the depth of your notes depends from person to person. 200 page notebook should be more than enough, right? Sticky notes, extra points you can write in sticky notes, but normally the way I use sticky notes is, for example, if in class, right, when my teacher used to give me extra questions or say that from this particular point these questions come, I use those rectangular. Now sticky notes also come in different sizes. You have rectangular sticky notes, you have big sticky notes. So in these big sticky notes you can write points, right? But here in these rectangular ones you can write important questions and you can fold them and stick it. Yes? Okay, you can add an extra points for foundation and you can separately write for foundation and you can write those pointers, right? Okay, so students, how to revise with notes is something that I would like to take in a separate class. But now are we feeling confident, right? Are we all feeling confident about how to make notes for this particular chapter? Because you have your periodic test coming in very soon. So you need to make sure that all of you have it ready. And this 100-200 page notebook is not for sale. This is in general for science that I was recommending, right? Okay. Yes, not for sale. Should we, let's see, don't copy your friend's notes. If there is some way in which, for example, there is a table that they made that you liked, or there is a summary that you liked, you can do the same thing. But don't ever copy anybody's notes. Make your own. Ma'am, in exam, we will draw diagram of plant cell, animal cell given in book. Given in book. But you can draw the one I do also. It's simple only. I'll do diagrams later. Yes, don't worry. Is NCRT enough for board exam? More than enough. Now, before I get started, and before I wind up today's class, I have a quick question for all of you. Did you find this kind of class helpful? Where we have taken one chapter and we have understood how to go about it page by page. Now, is it something that you would enjoy to do for all other chapters? Yes? Let me know in the comments of this video, right? And secondly, did you enjoy today's class? If you did, right, I request you all very sincerely to hit that like button on this video, and of course do not forget to subscribe. Now I can see some of you did not find this particular class maybe helpful, probably because there might be something very specific that you were looking for. So for students who are very upfront with me, see, I always take your suggestions very seriously, right? So in case if there was something that did not help you, let me know, right? I know that there's a lot of struggle, and I'm also trying to understand my students and help them better. So if there was something that maybe you didn't understand in this particular video, you let me know in the comments as well, so that I will help you out, right? So that is why I am here for you. When I say that I'm here for you, I really mean it, right? It's not something where I say that, oh, I'm here for you, and then I go missing. Yes? So everybody, do not forget to hit the like button on this video. And as you all know, right, I know that good number of you here are live watching, but I see very less likes on this video. Let's at least hit 100 likes before we wind up today's class, right? And of course, students, let me tell you one thing. Here at BYJU'S, we're going to be having some exciting things coming your way. If some of you are smart, you realize that I've already leaked a lot of things. So of course, everyone, as we all know, right, every day at Tuesday 6 p.m. we have biology classes, and of course I'll be taking SST for you on Fridays as well, and of course much requested economics class is going to be coming for all of you. So do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and you know we've got you covered no matter what, right? So do not forget to hit the like button on this video, and please do not forget to subscribe, right? Now I know many of you are asking me to show the full notes, but there was quite a reason why I did not show you full notes, because first, before I share you the full set of notes this weekend at least, right? So I will give it to you by Monday, but by Saturday, Sunday, I want you to take this time to make your own notes. You make your own notes, and then I will share this set of notes to you, right? So everybody, with this I am going to be signing off. I hope you had a lot of fun in today's class, because I surely did. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you all soon, but up until then, take care, lots of love, and bye-bye.